Hi everyone, so today we're going to be listening to this audio reel. This is something that I picked up 2 or 3 years ago, and it was on my to-do list. It was on the bottom of my to-do list to get this converted into an audio format that I can listen to. So it looks like this. It's one of those really, really old style audio reels, and on the front cover it says Batman Forever 1 of 1, 27 minutes and 30 seconds. Didn't know what it was. It was like 10 quid or something. The seller thought it was interviews, but wasn't quite sure. Anyway, I've had it converted into CD. You're going to listen to it straight after this. It is interviews from the movie, which is kind of cool. And they are, I think, unique interviews, particular just to this version. So what I think this was an audio reel that would get sent out to a radio station so that they could play clips on the movie. They could pluck out, you know, a few kind of snippets of the actors talking about the movie. And that's what this was for. It's really, really interesting to listen to. I'm not going to say it's like super revelatory or you're going to find, you know, some amazing gem that you've never heard before. They are a press PR interview, but having said that, I think there is a certain like unpolished quality to them. These feel like the actors have been asked on set to talk about the character or the movie that they're working on. And it sounds a little bit kind of off the cuff and less polished. I don't think this is the same thing as the PR interviews that they did, you know, on camera, the things that are on the DVD and the Blu-ray, or the things that are in the making of the movie. I think these were specifically done just for radio, so there's only an audio version. I'm just going to go through them quickly and just give you a couple of little thoughts on all of them. So the first person you hear is Val Kilmer, who seems to have been recorded 2 separate times. I wonder whether the first time just the studio were like, this isn't good enough, let's go back and get a little bit more. He talks about how his Bruce Wayne, he was sort of like inspired by Howard Hughes and the way that Howard Hughes would go to his you know, his company and wander around and sort of look at everyone and what they were doing and everything. I don't know whether that's purely because they were filming this in the Spruce Goose hangar where Howard Hughes, you know, built his massive plane, or whether that is genuinely what Val Kilmer was thinking. One of the interesting things that I got from that, though, is that even though we tend to get this idea that Val Kilmer didn't really care about the movie and, you know, wasn't super enthused about it, still he's thinking about the character. He's thinking about how he wants to play the character. That was kind of interesting to hear. The next one you hear is Tommy Lee Jones. Again, there's some really interesting stuff there. He talks about how he was really happy playing a comic book villain. He was like, I usually look for the subtleties, and you know, I didn't have to worry about that here. And oh boy, is that kind of really revealing, because that says volumes about his performance and how kind of big and over the top it was, and how maybe he should have looked for some subtleties. He also talks about how he didn't sign on straight away, and it was his son who convinced him. His son was, you know, into the animated series and knew who Two-Face was. And convinced him to take the part. So, you know, that's kind of interesting. Jim Carrey then talks. I don't know that Jim Carrey says anything super interesting, but he does bring up, like, oh, of the 2, you know, Batman villains I would have loved to play, you know, Riddler as one and the Joker as the other. I think that's really interesting, because I do think a Jim Carrey, mid-90s Jim Carrey Joker, you know, you could have had that very kind of like psychotic clown portrayal of the Joker, which is sort of like gone by the wayside now. We don't tend to think of him in that fashion, but I do think Jim Carrey could have done a really creepy but also funny Joker. And then lastly, Chris O'Donnell. Again, Chris O'Donnell mostly talks about the Robin character and, you know, how he got in. I think he explains like he got the part probably off the back of Three Musketeers, because that had involved a lot of kind of sword fighting and choreography, and this movie obviously involved a lot of choreography as well, so I think that got him the part. He also tries to crack some jokes, and it does remind me that, you know, Chris O'Donnell is everyone sees him as this very kind of straight-faced character and very serious, and he's always in these kind of serious roles. But I think he did actually want to be kind of funny, and, you know, there's some photos of him at the premiere with Jim Carrey like messing around, and you're just like, actually, yeah, he did have a bit of personality. The last thing is obviously Joel Schumacher talks at the end. I think he talks the longest of all of them, and he's talking about the movie. And again, it's stuff that we've heard before, like, you know, he wanted it to be a living comic book, and he wanted to, you know, look at the huge scale of Gotham City and things like that. And then by the end, he's like, and we've also got a new Batman suit, and we've got new Bat gadgets, and there's this thing that, you know, shoots electric goo at you and stuff. And he's obviously like, right, I got to sell this to the kids, you know. But all in all, it was really fascinating. As I say, I don't think this has been archived anywhere else, so I'm really happy to have something and just, you know, preserve it for future listens. Anyway, you guys have a listen to it, see what you think, come back to me in the comments if there's something I missed, or like, Neil, how did you miss this? Let me know.
You're counting on the winged Avenger to deliver you from evil, aren't you, my friend?
Are you gonna kill me?
Maybe, maybe not. You can say we're of two minds on the subject. You're a gambling man. Let's say we flip for it. One man is born a hero, his brother a coward, babies starve, politicians grow fat, holy men are martyred, and junkies grow legion. Why? Luck! Blind, stupid, simple, doodah, clueless luck! The random toss. The only true justice. Let's see what justice has in store for you.
Hot entrance. I'm Chase Meridian.
I asked Dr. Meridian to come to Gotham to consult on this case. She specializes in...
abnormal psychology, multiple personalities. I read your work. Insightful. Naive, but insightful.
I'm flattered. Not every girl makes a superhero's night table.
Can we reason with him? He's holding innocent people up there.
It won't do any good. He'll slaughter them without thinking twice.
Agreed. A trauma powerful enough to create an alternate personality leaves the victim...
In a world where normal rules of right and wrong no longer apply.
Exactly.
Like you. Well, let's just say I could write a hell of a paper on a grown man who dresses like a flying rodent.
Bats aren't rodents, Dr. Meridian.
Really? I didn't know that. You are interesting. And call me Chase.
Here's the bargain. You will help me steal production capital so I can put a box on every TV in town and become Gotham's cleverest carbon-based life form. And in return, is everybody paying attention? I will help you solve the greatest riddle of all, the mother of all riddles. Who is Batman?
Last night at the bank, I noticed something about Two-Face. His coin. It's his Achilles heel. It can be exploited.
I know. You called me here for this. The bat signal is not a beeper.
Well, I wish I could say that my interest in you was purely professional.
You're trying to get under my cape, Doctor?
A girl can't live by psychoses alone.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
I need a name. Batboy, Nightwing. I don't know, what do you think? What's a good sidekick name?
How about Dick Grayson, college student?
Screw you. I just saved your life. You owe me.
You are totally out of control. You're gonna get yourself killed.
You're looking at your new partner.
No!
Bruce, whenever you go out tonight, I'll be watching. And wherever Batman goes, I'm gonna be right beside him. I mean, how are you gonna stop me?
I can stop you.
Al, hang this next to the bat suit, where it belongs.
And you're encouraging him.
Young men with a mind for revenge need little encouragement. They need guidance.
Batman will come for me.
Batman? Batman, you say? Coming for you? I'm counting on it!
There's an office, a desk, a secretary. He doesn't stay there very long, but he shows up every now and again, kind of like Howard Hughes. Hughes actually didn't have an office. He would just show up. He would know everything. It's sort of that style. It's very specific, and it's really grand. Everything is big. It's so big, we shot at Universal as well as Warner Brothers and down in Long Beach. There's not enough space in Warner Brothers, so we rented some more. It's a big world, Gotham. One of the main themes is identity. Harvey Two-Face is the easiest example because he's split right down the middle, but Bruce Wayne's dilemma has to do with himself and his past, but the result of how he reacted to his parents being murdered by a psychopath was to become Batman. And is it a good thing, and why? Should he continue, and can he have a life without being Batman? And his personal story is mirrored in Dick Grayson's story. His parents die, and he's consumed with revenge. He can't think about anything else, and he has his own personal journey about being split, about what he knows is really right and what he feels he needs to do about getting revenge. It really truly was everything about it. It's extremely captivating, obviously. It's almost feels odd talking about the things, about the entity of the story about Batman, because everybody knows it. It's 50 years has maintained this interest. There's something really elemental that Bob Kane created. He was around quite a bit, which I was really happy about, because what he created was really extraordinary. He was just a kid, you know, when he started. I think he was 19 or 20, right before the Second World War. And what he did in the comic books, which is maintained and started many different styles of storytelling, really, that he created or encapsulated, quite radical. We were corrupt politicians, and he was dealing with current events at the time in this highly stylized way, and all quite serious, if you want to look at it that way, you know. And why it's so successful is it also hits readers, audiences, in all of its manifestations in a vivid and entertaining way, obviously. You know, we liked the stuff. It was kind of almost disappointing sometimes when kids would be on the set, because I would want to do my voice and do a cape routine or something, and they weren't interested. The image of it is, their minds go off. You get this highly concentrated, glazed look, and I knew there was nothing I could do. The suit sort of took care of it all. So.
It was just a great deal of fun to be a comic book character. I mean, ordinarily I look for certain subtleties that a comic book doesn't concern itself with, really. I mean, so it was liberating, of course, to be a comic book villain. Yes, I mean, I'd never heard of Harvey Two-Face, even though I'd read the comic books when I was a child. If I had heard of Harvey, I had only a vague memory of it. But my son knew who he was immediately, and was very enthusiastic about the movie. In fact, he was enthusiastic about it sooner than I was, which is to say, instantly. It took me a little bit longer to talk myself into it, and it was his enthusiasm that was decisive for me, really. Well, Two-Face is, just, he believes in brute force. I mean, his plan is to kill Batman. It's that simple. One of his plans, usually what he tries to do is set a trap for Batman. He'll wreak havoc and wait until the Bat comes to restore order and try to ambush him. He does that on several occasions. That's his modus operandi. Well, at first he's incensed that anyone could break into his hideout. But when the Riddler suggests that he may have a way to learn Batman's identity and then render him helpless and then hurt him and then kill him, Harvey is very pleased to enter into a partnership with the Riddler. Of course, the Riddler's character changes all the time. Harvey's characters do not. They're more sort of consistent.
I thought about that. I thought about who I might be, and I think the Riddler is pretty much perfect. It would have been the Riddler or the Joker, one of the two. I think he hated Bruce Wayne to begin with. He hated him because he had everything that he wanted. And I think that's how that starts. It really isn't about really loving somebody. It's about not loving yourself and seeing somebody who is the guy that you'd love to be and resenting him for it. And that's how it basically snowballs. It's just a great character because he starts out pretty much bonkers to begin with, but it just takes on different forms, and he gets so full of just energy and evil power that you just can't help but love playing that. It's the ultimate juice master. Basically, it saps the IQ from whoever watches the television that it's hooked up to, and redirects the brain waves into Edward Nygma's skull, and so he's sucking Gotham's brainwaves. He's devouring people's IQ, and so he just becomes a mega intellect, although he's mad. So intellect with madness is kind of a fun combination. I love the character because it's basically he's realizes that it's not who has the answers, it's who knows the questions. I thought I looked a lot like Michelle Pfeiffer, actually. He's not a very physical guy, except for he's very flamboyant. He's got a little touch of Fred Astaire, a panache, joie de vivre. But he's not going to hurt anybody with his fists. But he'll pick up a rock. That's where you have to be careful.
Robin's story is pretty close to the story of Robin in the comic books. He comes from the Flying Graysons, which he's from the circus, and he's lived on the circus all his life, which has kind of toughened him up a little bit. He's a little bit of a gypsy lifestyle, and he's a pretty cocky young guy until he has this traumatic experience. He wants to be a part of the team as soon as he finds the Batcave. He sees everything down there, and he figures that's a way he can get back and avenge his parents' death. But Batman doesn't want him to be a part of him. At first he doesn't like Bruce Wayne and doesn't like Batman. And then Batman wants to protect him and doesn't want him to be a part of it. But after they kind of help each other out and save each other, they finally become a team. Well, yeah, they both, saw their parents die before their eyes, and I think that is why Bruce Wayne offers to take in Dick Grayson, offer him a place to stay because he sympathizes for him. Dick Grayson, he kind of resents Bruce Wayne, some rich guy, who is this. Dick Grayson thinks he's this kind of himself as being kind of a tough guy, been living on the road, and wants nothing to do with it. But he is out to, you know, get Two-Face, and anything that can help him, he's going to take. So when he finds out that he's Batman and that he's got the Batcave and all that, he wants to be a part of it. And Batman, who realizes what it means to become a part of this, wants to protect him, and saying he doesn't want him to be a part of it. But you know, they go through a course of events where they both end up saving each other, and a partnership is formed. I mean, there was a lot of fight scenes, and I didn't have a problem with them as far as when they were choreographing these fight scenes. I picked up on them pretty quickly, and I think that was mainly because of the Three Musketeers, which I had worked on, with these really long sword fights, which took weeks to choreograph. These really intricate moves. I mean, a couple punches and a kick here or there, it was like, wasn't that bad. But there were other things in this movie that you had to deal with that were tough. I mean, these suits are kind of constricting. They give you perfect posture, actually. Well, Robin is after Two-Face in particular, because Two-Face is responsible for the death of his family. So he really is out to get him and avenge their deaths. Figure out a way to get down to the Batcave, and I find the Batmobile. And Dick Grayson decides it would be fun to take the old Batmobile for a spin. Probably do pretty well with the ladies out in the city, cruising around in a Batmobile. And in the course of cruising around Gotham City, I find a young lady in distress who's being chased by a gang of hoodlums. So I come to her rescue. And when they see the Batmobile, everyone thinks it's the Batman himself, but it's just me. Batmobile was pretty cool. Batmobile was very cool. I'd like to take it home, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think you probably get from here to Chicago in about very quickly. I don't know when Robin's going to get his own toys, though, you know. It's about time. What about Robin? You know, I got a motorcycle. Can't they spruce it up and give me the Robin motorcycle or mobile?
It was the most fun I've ever had in my life making a movie. And I've really enjoyed myself on all my movies. But this was the most fun. The cast was so much fun. And the crew was so much fun. But I wanted to make a living comic book. And, you know, when you're doing a comic book, the reality police aren't hanging over your shoulder all the time. So you have the license to really use all the imaginative and creative people around you. And the cast was wonderful. They all had a lot of great ideas. And, you know, even though it's the third of the Warner Brothers Batman movies, it was our first. So for us, it was the first time, and it was, and the cast, the first time. So it was really exciting. It was exciting to go to work every day. Comic books. You know, Batman's been around since 1939, and so the first thing I did was call DC Comics, and I got as many comics as I could get my hands on from 1939 right up till now, where there are extraordinary artists and storytellers working on them, because there's so many different kinds of Batman comic books now. And I just read hundreds of comic books for a long time, and it was great. I could read them on planes and in the doctor's office and wherever I was, because it was my job. But I'm sure everybody thought, what's this old hippie doing reading comic books? But and I just immersed myself in the folklore, the legends, and the comic books. You know, the wonderful use of color, the wonderful use of imagination, the stretch of imagination, the fun of scaling buildings with Batman. You know, I just got immersed in Batman's world, and that was the essence of the starting point. I think the one unique thing that separates him from a lot of superheroes is that he's a man. He's not a superman. He's a man with extraordinary power, extraordinary human powers. He's a man whose parents were killed in front of him, and who has become a vigilante by by putting on this black bat suit and going out at night and trying to right wrongs, and and he has all the vulnerabilities and all of the flaws and all of the human drama that any human being has. He's not perfect, and he's not impenetrable. I've tried to structure a very strong story about duality, because Batman is also Bruce Wayne. So there is a struggle for Bruce Wayne to find his identity insofar as why he ever became Batman, to look back in his past as a child and the events that happened to him and why he became Batman. So there is a mythic quality to the revelation of that story, how he became Batman, and he has a choice as a man now whether to continue to be Batman or not. And so the story is about duality, and therefore everything that was created around that was to serve it. Dick Grayson, I brought in Dick Grayson, who becomes Robin, because his family has also been killed by a criminal, and he's a mirror of what happened to Bruce Wayne when he was younger, so he gets to relive that through another person. Nicole Kidman not only plays a criminologist who deals with dual personalities, she is in love with Batman, and Bruce Wayne is in love with her, so she's having a triangle with the same two men. And then there's no greater character to show duality than Harvey Two-Face, because you have Tommy Lee Jones as a man who is literally split in two, one side with the vestige of whatever rational judicious thinking he had as a district attorney, and the other side a crazed maniac killer. And then Jim Carrey's Riddler, the sign of the Riddler is a huge question mark. And so Jim is there as the Riddler to question Val's total identity. The Riddler questions Bruce Wayne and Batman's whole identity. And so the piece, hopefully, you'll feel that the movie is somewhat about that, with lots of fun and games on top of this, of course. The Riddler in real Gotham life is Edward Nygma. And Edward Nygma, in this particular version of Batman, starts out as a techno-nerd genius with egomaniacal plans to be a bigger and greater electronics genius than Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne, we've also introduced Wayne Enterprises into this Batman, which has classically always been the business, the industry that Bruce Wayne runs. And there's an electronics division, and he works for Bruce Wayne as one of the many people in white lab coats doing, experiments and creating new ideas. But he actually wants to be bigger than Bruce Wayne, and so that begins a story of revenge and jealousy and competition that drive him over the edge, and he becomes the Riddler and a criminal and a psychotic and quite a foe to be dealt with. Well, the Batmobile is the mother of all gadgets, right? Well, there are fabulous new bat bolos and batarangs and special batarangs, a great one that Val uses at the end of the movie. I don't want to tell you how. There's a brand new bat suit, besides the one we created for the movie, that Val wears most of the time. At the very end of the movie, he wears a brand new bat suit, never seen before, with much different looking and with extraordinary extra gadgets and powers and things that it does. And there's a gun. There's a gun that shoots out a blue ray that stuns people, that stuns bad guys. That's pretty exciting.
there's a lot of winches and gadgets, and the Batmobile does a spectacular gadget trick during a car chase with Two-Face and Batman that I like a lot. And because Wayne Enterprises is partly an electronics empire, there are a lot of electronics, computers, technology, and Jim Carrey's invention in the movie is a holographic, three-dimensional device that enhances your television set, but it also has a very insidious side effect that feeds his criminal mind. And so there's a lot of, it's kind of like the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the year 2000 all smashed together in one city. Kind of like now, you know, kind of like LA.